And in three, two, one. Hello and welcome to the. No, already screwing it up, Jonathan. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Real Investment Property Income Podcast. My name is Jeff Eady. Joining me today is the Hall to my oats, Mr. Jonathan Tilger, one of Canada's top mortgage brokers. How are you today, Jonathan?
I'm phenomenal, Jeff. Yourself?
I am fantastic. Oh, this is like the most pressure I have all day. I love introducing people. I just always want to pay credit where credit is due. And I do my best to read these, but I'm really excited about our guest today. I've been looking at all of his stuff. He's got a really interesting strategy. I'm going to do my best to follow the script as I always do. He was once known as the flip king of real estate before he discovered the overlooked profits hiding in the self-storage industry. He's gone from flipping over 100 homes a year to making 10 times more in profits from only doing 5 to 10 storage deals per year. In addition to storage investing, Joe is an author, host of his own podcast titled The Legacy Blueprint, and CEO of two other 7- and 8-figure businesses. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Joe Evangelisti. Joe, how are you today?
I'm awesome, Jeff. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Whew, I'm glad that part's over. First of all, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I see that you were in the Navy and freedom is not free. Thank you very much for your service, sir.
You know, I used to have that tagline on one of my first vehicles back. I don't want to date myself how long ago it was, but I used to have that written on the back window of my old Bronco. I had like a 91 Bronco.
That's awesome.
The freedom is not free there.
Freedom is not free. And I had a little flag underneath of it. Yeah. I'm one of those guys.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you all the way. Actually, we're from Canada, but where I am in Canada is actually probably more southern than half the US. So it's kind of
you guys are fighting for your freedom more than very many free countries that are out there, I think, right now. I was just in a entire event full of Canadians 2 weeks ago in Florida that are looking to relocate to the US and start investing and are already investing in the US because of how kind of messed up your government is. But we don't have to go down that road if you don't want.
I will say that we were talking to gentleman Zach Morrow out of Lubbock, Texas, was on the show a couple of weeks ago. He's actually coming on again in a couple of weeks. And Texas looks pretty darn good right now, I got to say.
Yeah, we just did a self-storage JV development site in Houston with a relocated expat Canadian down in Florida.
It's just kind of funny how that's happening, isn't it?
It is very.
Yeah, but let's not go down that hole. That's I think we could have you and I could definitely have a conversation on that. We try and stay apolitical here, but we definitely have our views. Anyhow, let's why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Joe? I have a feeling this is going to be a really interesting conversation, and I love the space that you're in. I'm very familiar with it, so please tell us.
Love it. Yeah, guys. I mean, I started out as a kid in the construction industry years and years ago. My dad was really the first entrepreneur in our family. He had a drywall business when I was growing up. So I remember like when I was 4 or 5 years old, 3 feet tall, being able to push a broom and, swinging hammers. And I think I could tape drywall by the time I was 10. So I grew up in the industry and I just fell in love with it. Like, I think a lot of us, we see what our parents do. We want to go a different direction. I just always looked at my father as my hero. I always wanted to go in his direction. So, grew up in construction. As I was getting older, he got more advanced, started doing general contracting, new home construction, stuff like that. And, I think if you asked me any time in high school, I would have told you that my whole goal in life was to grow up and be him. Took kind of a different trajectory right out of high school. As you mentioned earlier, was able to get into the U.S. Navy Seabees. A lot of people don't know what that is. It's a construction battalion of the Navy. And we go everywhere by air and by plane, and never been on a boat, never been on a ship. But got to travel around the world and build really cool shit all over the place. Some stuff I can talk about, some stuff I can't.
That's cool.
Did that for 6 years. So I lived my dream for 6 years. I knew I wanted to serve my country, but I also wanted to do construction. I got to do both. So I'm really lucky and grateful that I had that opportunity.
And just what you said there, starting out at the beginning, you're what, 4 years old and swinging a hammer. I mean, isn't that especially boys, isn't that boys' dream? Sitting there, I can swing a hammer. That's so cool.
And I'll tell you what, Jonathan, just a full circle kind of dream come true. Around that time frame, I used to have this sandbox in my backyard, and I had this big old, I'm talking like 2 foot long. I don't even know if they make this thing anymore. It was a metal Tonka truck, like earth mover. And
I know the one you're talking about.
Dump it. And mine had, and I swear I don't know, this can't be legal anymore. It had some kind of oil that you would pour in it and it would burn it off and smell like diesel fuel. No way you could do this anymore. Well, anyway, come full circle. About a year and a half ago, I have a picture now of my 2 daughters standing underneath the tire of one of these earth movers. And I had 3 of them on my job site moving dirt. And the tires were 2 feet taller than my girls. I mean, this had to be a 6 foot tall tire. And I just thought to myself, man, I talk about, coming full circle. I used to play in the dirt and pretend that I was this guy one day. Now we're moving dirt, we're moving earth like this. We're building these massive facilities, and just a dream come true.
You know what? That's just, sorry, I'm trying to find the right words to describe the fact that you started thinking that way as a kid and you just kept on that path. One of the things I try and help people understand, because people kind of get to a point a lot of times, I think, where they realize there's got to be more.
Yep.
And a lot of times I look at my friends growing up in a small town, there wasn't a lot of opportunities. They just kind of took the first job they got out of high school, and that was now their life. And they were basically working that job to afford a life that they weren't happy with in the beginning. How did you stay on that track to never have to fall off of it? Like what happened when you got out of the Navy? How did you stay on that track?
So I think a lot of it has to do with being hard-headed, right? And deciding early on that, like, this is what I want and nobody's going to stop me. And I'm not unique in that. I mean, I think a lot of us have that, hard-headedness that we want something, and then not giving up. Like, I mean, we've almost failed so many times. I mean, completely failed. We've almost filed bankruptcy a few times. We've almost, you name it, and problems have occurred, but deciding early on that it's just nothing's going to stop me from getting what I want. And, I don't know if that was, something I picked up when I was a kid, but, I always saw myself taking over for my dad and just trying to do it at a bigger level. So I think that drove me to figure something out. And, ultimately I was able to retire him about 7-8 years ago, buy his general contracting company, and, basically pay him a salary for the rest of his life, which is something I'm really proud to be able to do. But, so cool. That doing that is like, one of those things. It was like one of those milestones, like, okay, what's next? And, I was in my early 30s when that happened. So now it's like, what else can we do? What else can we do? So I'm always trying to compete with myself. Never with who else is. I don't even know who our competition is building self-storage. I mean, I know from the feasibility studies, but, I don't get to know their business model.
So I'm kind of saddened we only have an hour for this, because there are a lot of facets to what you're saying. Because I know you do coaching as well, executive coaching. I was looking at some of the networking, or the group that you have. Sorry, I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head.
Storage Syndicate. Yep. The Storage Syndicate.
Is that's your mastermind group?
Yeah. So I have a self-storage mastermind group, which, has quickly grown to be the biggest and best in the nation. I believe that we're adding more value than any other group. And, you have to think that way. I mean, maybe there are better groups out there, but I believe we have the best. And it's because of the success of the students that are inside of it. Like, these are committed individuals that want to take action and want to go out and do storage deals. And we're literally putting storage deals together inside of that group, with some people who have never touched a storage deal, maybe people who are transitioning like we did from single family to something that's more scalable in the commercial sector. Some people who are just accredited investors for years and been LPs for a long time, and now they want to figure out, well, how do I do the GP thing? I don't want 1 or 2%. I want 20. And so that what happens inside that group is absolutely tremendous for me. To see the results and the reward I get from seeing people go out and take action and actually succeed at it is pretty awesome.
Where do we start with this? Okay, let's start. I want to understand your transition from multifamily over to self-storage. What happened there?
Yeah, what happened was I almost had like a complete breakdown, midlife crisis, and God knows how close I came to having a stroke. Like I think what happened was, and I can pinpoint it to a particular day. We made the decision. It was me and my business partner were sitting around at the end of the year, and we were saying, okay, I think we're going to close 88 doors, deals this year, and they're all single family fix and flip, right? These are 88 doors spread out across 35 miles or 50 miles of South Jersey in all different area codes and all different price points and all different designs. And it became so transactional and so difficult to put your hands around it. And I said to him, what do you want to do next year? Do you want to do 120? Do you want to do 110? And he looked at me and he said, I don't want to do 88. And I said, thank God you said that, because I don't either. Like we were just scaling chaos. There's a great book called Scaling Up, and they talk about the different levels, and they call it the elephant, the big level. A lot of people get to this elephant level where it's that the business becomes so difficult to pivot. It's so difficult to make change. It's so difficult to implement different processes because you're this big juggernaut, weird, aloof animal. And that's what we were. We had 45, 50 employees. We were flipping 88 houses that year. And I was like, man, scaling this is going to be impossible. Like, how do I create systems and processes around that? So then I started looking outside the box immediately and said to myself, okay, we got to do something different. And at that time, my good friend Tim Bratz was running the Commercial Empire, still is, which is a multifamily investment, basically mastermind. And I thought we'll go down the multifamily route, but I very quickly realized I'm a big fan of the blue ocean strategy. If you guys know what that is, it's like you don't want to be in the red ocean where the sharks are feeding, where the fish are getting destroyed, and you're having all this competition button heads trying to eat the same fish. I want to be in the blue ocean where I'm the great white, where I'm making the decisions, where I'm changing the industry, where I'm impacting things. And so I knew that in the multifamily, that was going to be really, really difficult to be. It's hard to be a great white in a multifamily when everybody's looking at multifamily. So then I started looking out, and this was prior to COVID. So we kind of got lucky in a way, right? I started looking at office. That was attractive. I started looking at retail. That was attractive. And one day I got on the phone with a mentor of mine now, and he was on his 4th self-storage development at the time. This was 3 or 4 years ago. And he says to me, Joe, my background, on our first conversation, we spent like 2 hours talking. It was an awesome, and one of those kind of like, you feel like you're catching up with an old friend kind of conversations. And he explained to me that like he had built houses in the Hamptons, $10 million, $20 million houses. He had built restaurants in Manhattan. He had built complete planned unit developments down in the Carolinas, thousands and thousands of houses. And he said, Joe, after you build your first self-storage facility, you'll never touch a single family home again. You won't even build your own single family home. You'll pay people to build a home for you. And you know what? He's absolutely right. Looking back on it 4 years later, we're right now wrapping up on our first of 10 facilities. And we have it pre-sold at CO. It was one of the easiest. It was arguably easier than building most single family homes. It's concrete, it's steel, and it's asphalt. 100,000 square foot facility has 2 toilets. It's you're not picking out tile and countertops and paint and trim colors and what's the carpet going to look. I don't care. I designed it one time, and I can build this site exactly the way I designed it the first time. And I didn't design it, by the way, my design team did. But take that package and I can build it in any state of the union. And now we're doing it. We're in 7 states, building them all over the country.
That's freaking awesome. Jonathan, you gotta have some questions about that. I know you're dying.
I mean, just going through that, because you made obviously a big transition there. You went from sort of the business, into, as you said, blue ocean, which blue ocean is lots of, I've heard the term before. There's lots of opportunity because you don't have the competition, but at the same time, there is like, you don't know where you're going. It's kind of like, going back to your Navy thing. You're in the blue ocean. You can see nothing. You look down, you see nothing. You look up, you see nothing. There's nothing around you. What was your mindset like in that process? What did you have to deal with from that standpoint?
I love how you just said that. And I think that the important piece to recognize there is that we're not alone in our ocean. There's other great whites. I just don't care what they're doing. Right. I'm paying attention to where I'm feeding. I'm paying attention to how I'm going to do it differently. I pay attention about how our processes are different than everybody else to shake up. We're in this business. I truly believe that we're going to shake up the self-storage industry as a whole. That's our goal. My goal is to do stuff totally different than anybody else has ever done it. And I'll give you an example of one of those things that we've done completely I don't want to say no one's ever done it before, but all the people that I've talked to in the industry are like, what are you doing and how do you do that? We've created a brand called Shovel Ready Storage, and essentially we're going out, doing the due diligence and building our pipeline with viable deals that have entitlements, that have surveys, that have environmental, that have all the due diligence done, that have site plans and 3D renderings. And they're essentially approved projects that people can buy directly from us and go and get their final building permit and break ground. So when I started doing this, it was, they say like innovation is born by necessity. What the necessity was the same thing that happened to us in single family. Why did we wholesale deals in single family? It was because I bought so many for myself that I couldn't fund them all, or I couldn't build them all, or I couldn't manage them all. So I would sell them to my buddies and I would make an assignment fee. Well, now we're doing the same thing, only add a couple more zeros on the end. And we're creating opportunity for other developers in the industry who don't have the pipeline and the wherewithal to go find these off-market deals.
So a couple questions on that part there, because you systematized it for somebody coming in. So once they get their permits, how long till they can have a facility up and running?
It really is. It's area specific. It could take anywhere from let's call it 10 months to 14, 18 months to build the facility, depending how difficult it is and weather conditions and all that type of thing. And then it takes another 6 to 18 months to ramp up the facility and get it filled with tenants. So generally, you're talking about a 3-year term on a PPM like that. But to give you an example, guys, and this is what's crazy about the industry right now, is there's so much money and there's so much need for existing sites that people are now, and this only happened in the last 6 months, by the way. This isn't something that was happening 3-4 years ago when we got into it. The REITs, the big companies now that are out there, they're swallowing up existing facilities and they're buying them at CO. So we're able to go and finish a facility before I put one tenant in place, and I have an approved contract to buy that facility for sometimes higher than my pro forma was expected to begin with.
So sorry, what is CO?
No, I'm sorry, certificate of occupancy. So in other words, when you get the keys in your hand and you can start putting tenants in place,
okay,
they're going to buy it the day that I had the keys to run that facility, even before I put a tenant in place.
Oh, wow. And I mean, with the first one, you mentioned that you had it pre-sold before you even, I believe you said before you started building, or pretty much at completion.
Yep.
What's the process like? Because that's something new. I'm assuming you had to learn, was the whole, how do you fill these places? Because that's the other part that I'll say, you're getting into this business, whether it's somebody new or obviously yourself when you got in. What's the process to fill the facilities now?
Yeah, so that's a great question. See, I look at us as pure developers, right? And we only develop one thing, or we only develop one size, which is Class A, 80,000 to 100,000 square foot net rentable. It's the only thing that I go after. Now, I'm not saying that's not the only solution. I'm not saying you can't buy a mom and pop 20,000 square foot site. But the reason that we do what we do is because I want to be attractive to the REITs, the Cube Smarts, the Extra Space, the Life Storage. I want the big guys to want to buy us or to manage us. And so the way to attract them is to build Class A sites. And if they're in the right spot, first of all, we're actually getting them to underwrite the deal before we break ground. We have a relationship now with a bunch of them where we could say, hey, you're heavy management in this area. Is this something you would want to take over and manage? And if so, does it make sense as a site? And we're getting them to say yes to the site before we ever take it down. So to answer your question,
nice.
We don't handle the ramp up. We don't handle the management side of things. I don't really want to learn that side of things. My unique ability is construction and development from day one, and handing off an amazing product that they can go find ways to fill up and put tenants in place. And that's, been our success so far.
So Joe, I think we need to have a conversation offline about this as well.
Sure.
We work with a number of people in that space that would be extremely interested in what you just said.
Yeah.
I see Jonathan lighting up. He's not much for showing emotion, but I know what he looks like when he's super happy. But I want to keep this kind of focused towards the listeners. I don't want to get off on different tracks, but I do want to understand, like, what's the rate of return on owning a business like that, like the storage business?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on how you look at it, right? There's a rate of return for our syndicated investors, the LP investors who invest in a deal. There's a rate of return for us as the GPs. Obviously, we're taking on more risk. We're taking on the banking risk. We have, the construct, all of it. I'm PG and everything. When you do new construction, guys, just so your listeners are aware, like get used to the fact that you're going to PG a deal or personal guarantee if the listeners don't know what that means. But, when you're doing construction, especially something where it's a $12 million build, you're putting your neck on the line, or you're going to give away equity in the form of GP equity to someone who can be the signer on that deal or can give it away. So, lucky enough, I had the baseline of the single family business and the net worth to go out and get banking on these deals. It doesn't mean that if you don't have that you can't joint venture. I think one of the coolest pieces of this, kind of to wrap around to your question, Jeff, is there's so many opportunities for people to get involved in this business because the deals are so large, right? For the most part, we try to be in these deals for under 60 cents on the dollar. And so like what that looks like is we might be into the deal for 12 million and we just, we're getting offers for 22 million, right? That spread allows for a lot of people to get involved, right? And what I mean is if you need a KP and you got to give up equity, you can do it. If you need a KP or somebody who's an operator who understands the construction, who can get you through the deal, who can help you figure out how to build the deal, you can pay them in the form of equity. And you still have room left over to pay or have your equity JV partners, your LP investors make equity and make income on the deal. So there's a lot of different rates of return depending on what pot you're sitting in and how much you have. But going back to my buddy Tim Bratz again, he always used to say, "Do you want 100% of the grape or 30% of the watermelon?" I used to have 100% of a lot of grapes, and it was a huge pain in the ass to manage. Yep. Now I'd rather have 30% of a lot of watermelons and have a great team behind me, which I think is one of our unique abilities, that all have a little piece of that pie or that piece of that watermelon, that are driving that thing to success. It's not just me, it's an entire team.
I think that's really in line with what Jonathan, you and I have been talking about lately. We work in a pretty niche financial sector, kind of where you sit. We typically deal more with the money, though. By the way, I wasn't a Tonka truck kid. I was a Monopoly kid. So kind of funny how that
later.
It's kind of funny how that works out. But with the way things have worked out lately, our lenders have all of a sudden come back and said, "Hey, we're looking for this specific thing. Just go feed that to us." Instead of us, finding the deals and bringing them to the lenders and trying to get approved or whatever, like, here, look for this. And we just started going after that. And it's totally changed the way we've started thinking about business. It's just so much easier. We don't have to deal with all of the nuts and bolts of everything. We just put those two things together and we step back and make sure it all stays together.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I think part of that comes with age, though. I don't know how old you are, but I think that there's a maturity that comes to that. You don't want to have to run after everything. You want to kind of be able to just let it go on its own.
I say this a lot in our coaching, but experts don't just know how to add, they know how to subtract, right? And getting to your point, the more you can tighten up your niche, your unique ability, what you're good at, what you're passionate about, what you have fun doing, the more you can define that. And you're right, it might come with age for some people, but I have 28-year-old, coaching clients who are going through this same transition. So I think it is a combination of age and experience. When you're new at something, you want to be everything to everybody. And the more you get deeper into the rabbit hole of what makes you money, it's the 80-20 rule, right? Generally, 20% of your efforts create 80% of your outcomes. So the more you can start to get tight on what are the 20% of the efforts that I need to make so I can free up 80% of my time to go do what the heck it is I want, hang out with my kids, play with my, go do my hobbies, play golf, go shooting, go boating, whatever it is you do, you can start to, you can retain 80% of your revenue by just focusing on the high gain activities and the high income activities. That comes from passion and unique ability. And it comes from understanding yourself really well.
So a couple things what you said there. I mean, and I'll tie back to something you said a little while ago. And first of all, before I say that, I just wanted to comment on the fact you actually said niche and not niche. I don't know if you're catering that specifically to us, or you usually say it that way.
No, I think I always say it that way, but go ahead.
Oh. But going back, I mean, you talk about focusing on the 80%, but also building a team, because I think those two things go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And just if you can go through some of the process you've gone through to finding your team, and I look and say part of finding the team is finding the things. What are the things I do that make money, but also what are the things that I do that I enjoy doing?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay. So here's a couple pieces to that. Number one, there's a reason why our company is called Legacy Developers, right? It's because, and I have legacy builder coaching, right? This is all about like for some people, I think this word legacy is like, totally self-serving and egotistical, right? But that's not the way we mean it. The way we mean it is, how am I going to help others build legacy wealth? How am I going to help others leave something for their kids or leave something for their great grandkids? And so when we started out, what we started to do was figure out, how do I build and hire people who are aligned with my outcome, and how every time I win, they win. Every time we close a deal, they get a piece of it. Every time we buy something, they have equity. Every time. So we're basically creating legacy wealth for people that are on our team. And I want them to ride out with us forever. I want this to be the last place they work, because they're part of what we're building together. And what that looks like is, our goal in the next 10 years is to do 2 billion in assets under management, right? So a lot of our guys, we only have 15 employees. I don't think we'll ever be higher than 20 or 25 when we're at full ramp up. And every one of those people are tied to our deals. Every one of those people have some piece of it. And a lot of that comes from, going back to your question, Jonathan, is how do we make this happen? I still journal almost every day. And I used to journal every day back when I had the team and the culture that I didn't really love. I used to write to myself, how do I surround myself with a team of people that I love doing business with? I must have wrote this 10,000 times in my journal, right? I have journals upon journal. I save them. And I would go back and try to answer the question. And two things pop up when I answer that question. Number one is, I have to create an environment that they're driven to be passionate, to be part of. It's not a 9 to 5. We're like the Google of self-storage. These guys work whenever they want, as long as they get their shit done. And number two, I have to become the leader that attracts those people, right? I have to be better at painting the picture, painting the story, creating the vision, having them become part of something bigger versus just having a 9 to 5 job. And those were the two big things that had to change. I think a lot of times the visionary doesn't take enough time to reflect on who do they have to become in order to have the team that they want. I had to step up big time and mature big time in order to surround myself with the people I have today.
I love what you're saying. It's just going in so many different directions that I'm trying to write stuff down, but I keep getting new questions
Sure.
I want to ask you. So
Sure.
I recently did this. I took a few days, and Jonathan knows this, and I would just go sit in the coffee shop and journal.
Yeah.
And it was pretty darn cold out, so I didn't want to really go anywhere else. And the boat club that I'm a member of, and just sat there and wrote to myself and just tried to understand where I'm at now and what I really want to spend time doing. And I think that's a massive thing. I think especially, I think everybody does it, but I don't think everybody understands the benefit of it. Where they forget about it. They just don't do it. I remember when my mom was passing away, I gave her this thing. It was like, it prompted her in the book to share these memories, and my friend gave it to me. And unfortunately, she never filled it out. And it was one of those, like I loved her. We knew each other very well, but I wish I had that. And I was thinking about this the other day, is that my journals, people want to actually understand where I was at personally throughout my life later on. And that's truly a legacy. And it lives beyond me. And that's one of the things I love about construction. I this summer I was doing drywall and framing with my cousins and concrete. And I love that that's going to exist after I'm here. Yeah. But then you're at a whole different level where you're impacting other people's minds. And that's an even larger legacy. And how did you come to that realization that that's what you wanted to do with this? Because it sounds like you could just go make a lot of money and not have to do that. Why would you make that difference, that transition?
So I learned a long time ago, making a lot of money is no fun if the people around you aren't making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds funny, but it's like the God's honest truth. Like, again, I want my people to become millionaires. I want every one of my team to be a millionaire, but I want that for my coaching clients too. Like, I don't want to coach somebody that I don't think I can help them become successful. Mm-hmm. And to go back to your question, Jeff, basically every one of us is self-governed by limiting beliefs. The only 100%. Thing, like, you are good enough, you are capable, you have all of the power that you need to do exactly the thing that you've been called to do. Like we have these dreams, we have these big visions, we have the only thing that keeps us from going and taking action is the belief that we're capable of achieving it.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tony Robbins has this quote. He says, the strongest force in the human personality is the need to remain consistent with how we define ourselves. And what he's saying there is like our story is our identity, is our picture, is our outcome.
Yep.
And, some of us have these big stories that we want, but we don't want to step into the role or create a paradigm shift to become that person that we need to become to get the success that we deserve, right? There's a reason why billionaires are billionaires. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why there's your mailman is one of the happiest people on earth. It's because his expectations and his like life conditions are in alignment.
Yep.
Right. So you can be as big and bad and awesome as you want to become, but you have to become that person.
Yeah. How did it struck me. I listen to Tony all the time, and it struck me that you're really unsatisfied when your blueprint doesn't match your circumstances.
That's right.
It really hit me. I'm like, that's exactly what's going on. That's because here's where I believe I should be. I'm not here. What do I got to do to get there?
And I think the most impactful piece of that is we compare ourselves to other people. Right. Like if there's one thing I can help, your listeners or anyone at this moment is stop looking around at whatever else is going on. Start comparing yourself to you of last year. The problem is if you can look in the mirror every 6 months and you see the same person, well, then you're going to continue to be unhappy.
Yep. You're absolutely right. I think that's huge. I mean, we're constantly bombarded with the dopamine rush of Instagram or Facebook and everybody's latest freaking vacation you're sitting there dirt poor and it does nothing for you internally. Yep. I know in my deepest, darkest moments, every time I would turn that crap on, it just made me feel 10 times worse. I had to just cut it out for a while,
kind of the untold secret is that it's meant to. Yeah. Right. Because we're forced into the drama. Human condition is we love drama. That's why we watch the Real Housewives of Dallas or whatever the hell it is. Like we love the negativity and drama. We love seeing people get messed up or have a problem or not be able to have, because it makes us feel better about our shit.
Yeah.
Where if we just reflect inside and say, okay, what about myself do I need to fix to create this crazy opportunity? Then all of a sudden it becomes real. And then you know what you have to work on.
I mostly follow 2 Airs online now. That's it.
Yeah.
when you actually said it, I wrote it down about how do I surround myself with the people, and basically essentially how do I create the life that I want? And I think your key point is there. Who do I need to become?
Yeah. That's right.
Because that's really it. At the end of the day, I mean, you said it, and that is that everyone is where they are in their life because of who they are in their life
and how they define themselves.
Yeah, yep. Exactly. And so to change it, I mean, that is, as you said, if you take nothing else out of this, take that part out of it, because that's what it comes down to. It's how do you change who you are and who do you want to be?
All of us are exactly where we should be based on our decisions, based on our actions, we're all here. And we may be growing, we may be going up, we may be going down, but the thing about the human condition is we never stay still. We never stay in one place. So whether it feels like you Absolutely. Have or not, you might have regressed for the last 10 years, and that's why you feel like you're at the same place, but you had the opportunity to increase, your output as well. And that's a decision.
I've recently taken, there's a course actually, tonight's the last night of it. It's something I've been taking since January.
Okay.
It runs just once a week, and the one thing they talk about, they basically just talks about a lot of different things, just really a lot of, I'll just say, the human condition. And one session they spoke about karma and what karma actually is. And people say, well, it's this past life thing. And so no, karma is essentially actions you're doing today are creating your life in the future. And so when you're looking back, and basically things you're experiencing today are a result of your past karma, effectively what you've done for the last, be it 6 months, be it 5 years, be it 10 years. And so essentially, if you want to change your karma, it starts today with what actions can you do? Because effectively the seeds you're planting today, they're not going to show up tomorrow necessarily, but they will show up 5 years from now. So where do you want to be 5 years from now? And look at, are the actions today in alignment with getting you there?
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah.
There's something else you said there, Joe, that when you're looking at who you are and who you want to be, one of the things, one of my mentors, Michael Burnoff, Jonathan, I both, Michael talks about you can't see your progress because you see you every day. You can only see your progress by putting yourself in your mind of 5 years ago or 10 years ago and thinking about who you were then and what skills you wanted then. This is why journaling is so great, because I go back and look at some of this stuff and I'm like, oh man, I was just a little kid when I was writing that, I'm 28, 29 talking about stuff that now is like, I don't even think about it. But you can't see that progress unless you can go back. This is one of the things I think journaling is so key. Jim Rohn says, why would you pay $25, $30 for an empty book? So you can fill it with your experiences. So you can look back and say, wow, this is how far I've come. But when you're trying to look at everybody else around you, you can't see how much you've grown. You can't, I'm on a weight loss journey again in my life, but I can't see it daily when I'm looking at it. So I don't weigh myself daily. I do it once a week so that I can, okay, there we go. We're back on track. Cool. Because if you're looking at the little minute things that happen every day, life is too distracting. I want to find out though, how do you put fun into what you do? How do you avoid like the burnout of it? How do you get up every day and just go like, I want to enjoy my day? Like Jonathan and I have kind of said this as of late. We're really surrounding ourselves with the right people that we laugh, we joke, we're easy around each other, and it just kind of naturally happens. We don't have to think about the fun. But do you have any strategies for that?
Yeah, I mean, we just named one, right? Which is my expectations and my life conditions have to be in alignment. Yeah. So the way that works is, you just mentioned Jim Rohn, right? Jim Rohn says this amazing thing. He talks about 5 years from now. And he says 5 years from now, every one of us is going to arrive, assuming we're above the ground, right? We're all going to arrive at either a predetermined or an undetermined destination, right? And so in order to arrive at the predetermined destination, you have to have a massive picture or a big outcome that you seek. And you have to be laser focused on that outcome. And so for me, my outcome in 5 years is 1 billion assets under management. And that's exactly where we're headed. And that's exactly the direction that we're getting there. So when I have this big vision, big picture, big story that I continue to sell myself on, it allows me to sell other people on that big vision. It also allows me to tie my passions to that vision. So guess what happens? When we have a bad day or a contract goes bad, or we always focus on the solution instead of the problem, because I'm getting to this big vision. Nothing is going to stop me. Nothing's going to stop my people. The industry is, I don't care about the economy. Like, there are things that we'll have to course correct and pivot along the way to help us get to that big vision. But every one of those obstacles is in my way as a challenge to get me from that to that big vision. If I don't have that big vision pulling me forward, if I don't have that predetermined destination, that's what keeps us miserable. That's what keeps us unhappy. That's what keeps us on a bad day saying, why the hell am I doing this? Right? I don't say that almost ever, right? I mean, I used to say it in the single family game. I used to say, man, this is miserable. I don't see it, because I didn't have a big destination. We were just volume flipping transactions to make cash, and there was no big picture. Yep. Now we're building AUM, which has a huge picture. It has massive cash flow. It has massive debt pay down, has massive tax benefits. It has massive ability to attract amazing team and people. So that big vision drives me. And the point you're trying to say is, how do you have fun? It's fun as hell, because I have this massive thing pulling me in that direction. I get up every day going, damn, I'm happy I have the ability, and I'm grateful for what I have. So going back to the first thing you were saying is, the reason people aren't happy is, A, they don't have a big vision. They don't have a massive goal and a massive outcome. But B, it's like, how does my passion align with that? Yeah. And I know it sounds cliche, but they're like, if you don't do what you love, you're not going to love what you do. It's true. I love what I do because I have this massive outcome. I have this big vision that I want to attract myself to. And I'm creating the people who are going to create the outcome as I'm manifesting them every day, right? Who do we need? Like right now, we're looking for a CFO. We're looking for in-house counsel. Like I don't get to that level without doing the first couple of deals, and then I start to create that snowball effect, but I'm getting to this outcome. That's the big vision. And so I think that's what makes it fun. That's what, keeps people happy. There's less pressure.
Now, can I just ask, because you said that your 5 year is 1 billion assets under management. How have you set, I'll say, milestones along the way, and how do you celebrate those milestones, especially with your team?
So first of all, we celebrate every closing because these guys get paid a big ass check every time. So like we're literally changing their lives every time we do a deal. And that, you know, like think about it. Like when we were wholesaling single family and doing $20,000 deal, it's not, I mean, it's okay, but it's nothing to be that excited about. You know, when you do a deal and you close it, you make 4 million, like that's a little bit more fun and easier to celebrate, right? Especially when you're spreading it out amongst your crew. So again, I think it's about building legacy and building net worth and wealth and educating them to be great, more holistic people, right? I think that's the other thing. It's not all about the money. You know, money's a big piece of it. Like, you know, you hear a lot of people say money doesn't solve all your problems, but it's sure as hell a lot more fun to have money. It's also about those people creating holistic lifestyles, you know, taking the day off to take their kids down to the zoo, you know, leaving work early to go sledding when it snows, you know, going to their kids' soccer games. Like I'm training our people to do that. I'm coaching them to do that. I want them to say, I'm not here tomorrow afternoon because my kid's got a, you know, soccer game. Cool. Take them. Like, because what's the point of us making all this money if we're not going to be great fathers and mothers? It makes no sense. Or great, if you don't have kids, you know, if you know, being a good husband, being a good wife, being the best person, you know, to the person to turn to in your community or your church, because they're good, holistic people, not just because we made a lot of money along the way.
You know, this is I love this. One of the most misquoted verses in the Bible, the love of, what is it? The money is the root of all evil, but it's the love of money is the root of all evil. People
Correct.
have this, anybody who doesn't have money has this view of people with money that they're like Mr. Burns or Scrooge McDuck trying to get for themselves and step over everybody else. But I know a lot of pretty wealthy people, and those people are the exception. They're not the rule. The rule, people that have a lot of money are like, hey, how do I show this to other people? Because this is amazing. Now that I know how to do it, how can I lift other people up with me?
Yeah, I've heard it say that people that think money is the root of all evil haven't given enough away.
That right there. Wow, that's huge.
Yeah.
And that's one of my goals is, you know, 10% tithe right off the top every time. I have my charities that I want to give it to in my local community and help my town grow. We're a small community, but you know, people who moan and complain about stuff, but don't do anything about it. That's I think that's the biggest tragedy in life.
Yeah. I mean, look, our of our 6 human needs, the real spiritual ones that really take us to the next level are growth and contribution, right? Mm-hmm. How are we growing personally each year? How are we getting better? Or how are we teaching? How are we coaching? And how much are we giving back? You know, what are we doing for like you said, your local community? What are you doing for the things that matter to you most? How are you creating impact in society? And that's ultimately how we're going to be judged.
You know, it's funny because my grandfather was fire chief for the volunteer fire department out here. And my grandmother was really involved with, my grandfather was a Mason and my grandmother was Eastern Star and they were both members of the boat club and all these things around here. My grandmother, and it's funny, because I saw my grandmother's plaque at the hospital a couple of weeks ago, and then I was at the boat club and I saw a plaque to her, and I know that my grandfather's picture is also hanging up at the fire hall, and I'm like, that is legacy, and they weren't necessarily erected, you know, they weren't done by them, they were done by other people in their honor. I was like, if that's what I want. I can do bigger. I know I can do bigger. But at the very least, I have to achieve that where somebody says, hey, we got to remember this guy because he did some really great things for our community.
Yeah. And you're a journaler, so write that down.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I did. That was actually part of that, you know, few days of, you know, I took some wanders around the town and just looked at some of these monuments and figured out, okay, this is where I got to start. As you can't tell, it's pretty near and dear to me now. It's what's driving me.
Amazing.
What are your what do you do for your health strategies? How do you keep yourself fit and healthy and able to work the kind of insane hours that I'm sure you have to and still not fall apart?
Yeah, so I have a whole platform on this, but it has a lot to do with routine, right? It's routines and rituals. You know, for me, I have a morning routine. Some people aren't morning people. I don't pitch the wake up early thing to everybody. I can tell you it's life-changing for some of the people that have done it. But part of it is figuring out what time of day are you in your zone of genius? What time of day are you your best? I like the mornings for a couple different reasons. Number one is I can get up super early, 4 o'clock. I can get, generally it's journal, it's read, it's get us some kind of sweat on, and it's plan my day so that I'm set up for the top 3 things that have to get done each day. Now, when I can do those 4 or 5 things, the rest of my day, and by the way, do all this before you check your Gmail or your Facebook or your Instagram or your social media. Because guess what? When you open your Gmail, no one has ever opened their Gmail, looked at it and said, yes, I'm so happy I got that email, right? It just doesn't happen, right? So
I did that last night, actually, just so you know.
Well, maybe it happens once in 5 million times, but here's the problem. We check our emails 100 times a day. Why? How is this getting us? So what we have to do is we have to create in the morning what I call mental armor, Jeff. So that the way to set yourself up for the day is to focus on gratitude first, focus on your big vision and your big picture, journal about what obstacles are in your way, visualize the amazing conversations you're going to have that day with particular people. Maybe you have coaching sessions set up. Maybe you have an investor session set up. Maybe you have a banking session set up, or maybe you have a team call set up. Literally visualizing the great things that are going to happen in that call and manifesting them, calling them to action before you ever check your email or social media. That way, when you do get that, random email that says, we have a problem, right? What happens is it forces our brain to focus on the present and the future instead of going back and retracting in the past and thinking, oh, I have this problem again. Here we go again, right? I think to myself, okay, well, how can I solve it? What's the way around it? How can I delegate it? How can I get on the phone and handle this? And you start to handle problems a lot better when you create yourself that mental armor before you start your day.
I said this to Jonathan the other day. I had a challenge. My car broke down in the middle of the night in the middle of nowhere. And I realized I didn't panic. I didn't freak out. I just kind of sat there for a couple of minutes and just assessed. Okay, what are my most immediate needs? Well, I need to get the car off the road so that nobody hits me. Okay, how do I do that? Well, I haven't figured that one out yet. But I realized how systematized my own problem solving has become. It's the most immediate needs first, figure out what's after that, and just do it one step at a time. When you look at the whole problem, it's like, oh my, that's hilarious. Dave's Auto is calling me right now about my car.
There you go.
But it's most immediate needs first. Don't freak out about the whole thing. Figure out what has to be solved right now, solve that, and then move on to the next thing.
Well, and I'll take it a step further, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
The real superpower for most business owners is having the guts to train their people to do the same. Right? How many people are afraid to let go of the vine? They're afraid to trust people. They're afraid to allow them to have responsibility. And so we try to solve their problems for them. One of the things I'm most proud about the legacy team is I don't solve any of their problems. In fact, I'm not really necessary in the big scheme of things. I don't really make a lot of decisions in the day to day. And, I'm basically the guy that just signs the documents for the bank. But, when you can allow people to go and solve their own problems, fail forward, right? Have issues. Like we have one of our core values is the 70% rule. And that rule is if you're 70% sure, it's a go. Right? You take action, you move forward, you solve the problem, you fix it. I don't care. So when people bring me problems, the first question I ask them is, are you 70% sure? Well, yeah, I am. Okay, cool. Why'd you bring it to me? Like, go do it. I don't need to hear the solution. I don't even need to hear what how you're going to solve. Go do it. Go do it. Because guess what? When you mess up, that's great. That's how I got here. I screw up every day. And I want people not afraid to screw things up and break stuff, because anything worth doing is worth failing at along the way. So we got to be able to allow our people to go do that stuff. And when we take that away from them, we're actually disrespecting them. We're actually taking away their ability to thrive and to grow and to learn.
I think you're absolutely right. One of the things I always hated it when you'd ask a teacher how to spell something, they tell you to go to the dictionary. But I could tell you from the emails and stuff that I get from other people, I'm glad I had to go to the dictionary.
Yeah.
But even with our we have a small mortgage team that we work with, and sometimes they ask us questions and you feel like a jerk saying it, but you got to go find that. I'm not just going to give you that answer. That's your job now. That's your business. You got to grow with that. And I think it is exactly what it's disrespectful to do it for them.
Totally. It'd be like, you're trying to teach your kids how to walk and you're just doing it for them. You're holding them up the whole time. Like, they're not going to learn how to walk, until they fall down, until they got to crawl some more, until they get tired of crawling. Eventually we learn by doing.
Yeah. Well, going back, and that's just what Jeff said about the mortgage team. The top thing I tell them is my top job is to make myself redundant in your life. I don't want to do it.
Yeah. We talk about firing yourself, right? I'm always telling people, if you want to go to the next level in this business, I don't want to be the CEO of any of my companies. I want to be a board member. I want to be the chairman emeritus, right? Call me from the island. So who's taking my spot? Who's going to be the CEO? Step up.
Yeah, amen to that. So, Joe, how do people work with you? Sorry, we are getting close to the time, and I want to make sure that, because it sounds like there's a whole bunch of different facets of how people can work with you, and how do you really want to grow with people around you? How do you want to attract? Who do you want to attract from talking to us?
I mean, listen, we're always trying to attract good people who want to learn the self-storage industry, or existing developers who want to expand their business. I mean, we're deep into self-storage rabbit hole now. We may have only been 4 years deep, but I think I have one of the most powerful teams in the country as far as, our development team, our design team, our construction teams. We're here to help people do more deals. And that's all the way from people who have no experience in real estate to people who are very experienced in real estate and are looking to build their team and grow their team. One of the best avatars for us is the people in the single family world who are doing wholesale or fix and flip or investments, and they're looking for a scalable option, because I can paint that picture and I can take them down that road. We just did it. And, it's not easy, but a lot of times when you find a mentor that can kind of, guide you through it, it happens a whole lot quicker. I mean, it took us 4 years to get here, but that was a tough 4 years of learning a lot of stuff along the way that now, I call it shaving decades to days, right? Like, you can spend a lot of time with nobody on your side, and you're going to figure it out if you're determined enough. But the difference is, like, hey, I could walk you through your deal, your first deal, and, it's still going to make a lot more money than all your single family deals put together. So why not do something that's more scalable, that's going to build legacy wealth that you can wake up 20 years from now with a real portfolio?
That's awesome. How do people find you?
Yeah, I mean, they can go to storagesyndicate.com, or they can go to legacybuilder.coach. Both of those links will take you where you need to go.
Fantastic. Joe, hang out for just a minute after we cut out here. I want to talk to you some more stuff, but thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time, and we'd love to have you back on, because there's still, I have a half a page of notes that I haven't even talked about. We just kind of kept going in different directions. If you're up for it, we'd love to have you back on in a few weeks and talk about more about the actual storage space, because that was where I wanted to go. We work with some people in that space, and really, I like understanding how the square footage works, and it's just totally different from anything I've done with pre-construction condos and stuff like that. It's a totally different layout and the way that you guys do it. It's really fascinating for me. But I appreciate your time so much, Jonathan. I always appreciate your time. You heard Joe. You can go to legacybuilders.com. Is that correct, or is it legacybuilder.coach is the one site, and storagesyndicate.com is the mastermind group. Fantastic. Joe Evangelisti, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening. If you want to find out more about Jonathan and myself, you can always go to never mind, don't bother going there. guidetothegrind.com, or soon enough we'll have another website up. But that's it for now. Thanks for listening. Have a fantastic day, and we will see you soon.